Hello, folks. Happy Monday. My name is Erica Parker. I am the program administrator for Monterey C. So that is the Monterey Stormwater Education, Stormwater Education Alliance, formerly the Monterey Regional Stormwater Management Program, lovingly referred to as Mr. Swimp. And we're here today providing this training for you. And Monterey C is comprised of the cities of Carmel by the Sea, Delray Oaks, Monterey, Pacific Grove, Sand City, Seaside, and the County of Monterey. So essentially, this regional partnership is working on regional stormwater programs throughout those jurisdictions. And our trainer today is Nathanial Milam. He is a senior civil engineer with Whitson and engineers in Monterey, California. Whitson Engineers provides civil engineering and land surveying services with focuses on land development, public works, and infrastructure. Nathaniel has 18 years of varied design experience, from the smallest city street repaving projects to multi-million-dollar flood control projects. He is a qualified stormwater pollution prevention plan developer and has prepared more SWIPs and stormwater control plans than he wants to think about. I now turn it over to Nathaniel, who will provide an overview of the California Construction General Permit and Central Coast post-construction requirements and present a flowchart to determine project applicability. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to submit them through the Q&A process, and we will address them all at the end. So take it away, Nathaniel.
Thank you, Erica. I gave you some tongue twisters in there. Like Erica said, this will be a fairly quick presentation. We'll be going through a couple of flowcharts, one for the construction general permit, and then a second one for post-construction requirements. And I was going to touch on the sections in the construction general permit that talks about these. So to just jump right in, this is my flow chart for determining if a SWIP is applicable. The first question is if the construction activity disturbs more than 1 acre of land, or if it's part of a common plan of development, which disturbs more than 1 acre of land. So just a note there, don't forget to include ancillary areas that may not show up on your plans. So, typically that's stockpiling and construction staging areas. Those can be substantial. The construction general permit discusses common plan of development and construction activities on these pages. So if we just flip over to those pages. Traditional construction activities subject to the permit, kind of the things that you would expect. Activities not subject to the permit. I just want to flag a few of these. So construction activity that includes but not limited to clearing, grading, excavation, stockpiling, demolition, that expose or disturb soil. So the exposing or disturbing soil is kind of the key to all this. So activities not subject, routine maintenance, agricultural operations, right? Solely related to growing crops and agricultural operations, discharges from tribal lands. Again, these are activities not covered. Discharges from Lake Tahoe hydrologic unit, construction activities that disturb less than 1 acre of land surface, unless part of a larger common plan of development, construction activities covered by an individual NPDES permit, and construction activities subject to the industrial stormwater general permit, for example, landfill operations, concrete manufacturing. Construction activities that discharge to combined sewer systems. I don't think we actually have any in our region. discharge of stormwater identified in CWA, 402, etc. And discharges of dredged or fill material to waters of the state. So that's your 401 permit. Somewhere in here, okay, so activities not covered, routine maintenance. They actually describe that the general permit defines routine maintenance for road and highway projects as the replacement of the structural section, but not when the activity exposes the underlying soil or erodible subgrade. So this is a clarification. This is new in this permit. It was not in the previous permit. This clarification is a little bit different than, for example, CEQA and NEPA definitions of routine maintenance. So this is a big clarification. So that was this guy and was the activity subject. So first thing, is it greater than or equal to 1 acre? Second, is it an activity that is subject to the general permit? Actually, let me back up. Common plan of development, that question comes up sometimes. Under previous permits, there was always a common plan of development provision. In the 2022 permit, they actually really substantively expanded and clarified the definition. So thank you, general permit writers. So general permit section, fact sheet 67 is where they go through it. They've got a really good discussion in here with a couple examples. And what they're trying to get at with common plan of development is if you have 100-acre residential subdivision, for example, and you're subdividing into half-acre lots, you don't have 200 individual projects. That's one project. But if you've got a campus, for example, a medical campus, campuses typically have master plans. The fact that you've got a master plan does not mean you've got a common plan of development. So that's a question that comes up all the time with campuses. So they actually added clarifying language in the permit this time around. So discuss construction activities subject and common plan of development. So if we've got less than 1 acre, we are not subject to the construction general permit. So no SWIP is required. If it's more than 1 acre, but we calculate the project's R factor and area of disturbance, and if the R factor is less than 5 and the area of disturbance is less than 5 acres, we can qualify for a small construction erosivity waiver. So so the R factor of less than 5, what that basically means in most areas is you can complete your construction during the summers from about April 15th to about October 15th. If you can get your construction done in that window, and if the total area of disturbance is less than 5 acres, you can get a erosivity waiver. So the applicant submits an application on SMARTS, just like if they were going to get a SWIP. They do get a WDID number. It's a waiver number, so it's got a W in it. But there's no SWIP required, and the project does not have coverage under the construction general permit. So that's another question that comes up. Hey, we've got a WDID number we had to apply. Are we covered under the SWIP? Do we still have to do the inspections and this and that? The answer is no. You're not under the permit. You've got a waiver. So if you don't qualify for a waiver, at that point, you're going to come in and get yourself a SWIP. The erosivity waiver is discussed beginning on fact sheet page 69. And they go through kind of the discussion and what projects are eligible. So that's this guy. And just so everyone's aware, I'm going to be providing Erica these slides, so you don't have to, don't have to worry about memorizing it all. We'll get that out to everybody. So it's a very, very simple flow chart. If you do have a SWIP, there's a few additional scoping pieces. I'm not going to go into really any detail. I mean, this would be a whole presentation itself, but something for the plan checker to keep an eye out is if you do have a SWIP, there are additional requirements depending on the project risk level and depending on if the project is directly discharging to a receiving water, if it's a risk level 3, if you have TMDLs, if you have an active treatment system, passive treatment, dewatering, or if you've got other permits. So these add pieces onto the kind of the plain vanilla SWIP. I will mention the CASQUA SWIP template, which was published in parallel with the 2022 permit. Has all of these baked in, so you should see them in the permit. Erica, I think that was the really quick rundown of just scoping for specifically for the SWIP. If there are any questions, we can
So
go
I
through.
think the one question we have is talking about the common plan of larger development. So could you dig into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so let me go back to the general permit, and yeah, forgive me, I ran right through these. We're going to send all these out so you've got the specific text. So common plan of development, common plan of larger development, same thing. The intention again is that they don't want somebody that owns a large project that's planning on developing a large project all concurrently from subdividing it and claiming that it's a whole bunch of smaller projects. So they actually talk about very specific examples and criteria. So for example, where discrete construction projects within a larger common plan of development or sale are located at least 1/4 mile apart, and the area between the projects is not being disturbed, each individual project can be treated as a separate plan of development or sale. They tie it to they tie your SWIP permit and determining if it's a common plan or an individual project, they tie it to your local permit. So that's going to be your local planning or building permit. There's also a time element. So again, they kind of go through 3 examples. So this is the example that I already mentioned, landowner, has 100 acres split into 200 1/3 acre parcels. That's obviously a common plan of development. And then, one of those parcels is sold to another owner who intends to complete construction as already approved. The new landowner must electronically certify and submit permit registration documents. So they're going to be subject. They're talking about, there's an ongoing subdivision. One piece of it gets sold, for example, to do a mixed use development within the subdivision. That's also going to be subject. If it gets sold and then 30 years later they want to build a home on it, it was a donut hole in the original subdivision, that's not going to require SWIP, right? That's, at that point, that's divorced in time enough. Here's another example. Landowner purchases 50 additional half-acre parcels adjacent to the original project. The landowner seeks a local permit to build on 20 parcels while remaining 30 for future development. That landowner must amend the permit registration documents to include the 20 parcels 14 days prior to commencement of construction activities. So I guess if there's a more specific question on this, again, the place where it's come up most kind of locally on projects is on campuses. So like if you've got a school campus, a medical campus, let's say you've got a school master plan and you want to put in a school building. It's come up before, and the local jurisdiction has occasionally said, hey, you've got a campus master plan, that's going to be a common plan of development. That is for the jurisdiction to say. My opinion, that's not a common plan of development. And again, in this permit, they've actually clarified that a little bit more than in the prior permits.
So we do have another question. Um, This one is several years ago, conversations with regional water board staff. They stated that they typically do not grant small construction erosivity waivers. Have you seen these granted in Monterey County, or is this new language and or?
Um, the regional board might not be aware of it because that doesn't go through them. Yeah, so we get these all the time. The small construction erosivity waiver, again, you sign up on SMARTS, that's the state's website. It is granted automatically. They didn't, under the 1999 permit, which is going back a little ways, they didn't actually require you to submit any paperwork for it because it's a waiver, you're not subject. But under the current permit, they make you pay the fee as if you were pulling a permit, but you don't get a permit, you get a waiver. And so the waiver is just their way of saying, yes, you've submitted your paperwork and you're going to be done by a certain date. So that's going to be the trick of it, is you're going to have that construction completed just during those summer months and have everything buttoned up and final landscaping in before your erosivity waiver runs out.
So at this point, those were the questions I have. If you have not submitted a question that is burning in the back of your brain, please do so through the Q&A function. And just like Nathaniel said, we will send around the slides after the fact so that you'll have the resources available.
All right, thanks, Erica. So the second piece,
Oh, I do have another question.
okay.
This one is technical, so bear with me. If the project is less than 1 acre, more than 1 acre, but less than 5 acres, and work is to be conducted between April through October, R factor, question mark, then SWIP not required, but waiver and WDID is?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly correct. So, and that's why I wanted to like kind of clarify the process here because it does come up. Yeah, so if it's more than 1 acre, less than 5 acres, and the R factor is less than 5, let me just delete some of that. There we go. Right, we're coming down this way. So we meet the criteria, we're going to get a waiver, which means we're not going to be subject to the permit, but we still have to submit an application. We still have to pay the fee. We still have to pull a WDID, and instead of being a 3C number for Region 3 construction, it's going to be a 3W for waiver. And then the local municipality will ask for that. They'll ask for that notice of intent, just like if you were getting a SWIP.
One more question. How is the R factor assigned?
Yeah, so you go to, let me flip to so I've got online resources. You go to the R factor calculator right here. It's a EPA website. You just put in your latitude, longitude, start date, end date, and it calculates your R factor for you. Simple as that. The daily R factor is very low in the dry months. As soon as you start getting into the wet season, so that's you start getting into October, it shoots up. And then it dies back down in April. And so that's why I say it's not a hard and fast April 15 to October 15, but if you're in April-ish starting and in October-ish ending, you can make those dates work.
All right, not seeing any additional questions in the Q&A.
Moving on.
I believe so.
Cool. Okay, so post-construction requirements. Similarly, just going to go through this quickly. As we all know, this is a huge topic. So what I'm really going to be talking about is how the post-construction requirements dovetail into the SWIP permit. Okay. So the construction general permit talks about the post-construction requirements in 2 spots. So pages 29 through 30, that's over here. And then again in attachment D. Okay, or okay, there we go. There's my fact sheets. And apparently in attachment D as well. Okay, so first question is if we're within a phase 1 or a phase 2 MS4 that has adopted post-construction requirements. So what that really means is, are you within an incorporated city, or are you within the unincorporated county, the county's MS4 area? So that's their urbanized area. And you can get that from the county's GIS. So if we are, we're subject to the local agency's MS4 permit and the local agency requirements. So the MS4 permit, that's the post-construction requirements that we're all familiar with, you know, tier 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to require of us a stormwater control plan. That's going to require the engineer to perform inspection or observations and certify the project at the end. It's going to require a long-term O&M plan, maintenance agreement. And post-construction, it's going to require annual SCM inspection and certification in perpetuity. So these are the MS4 permit requirements, or the regional permit requirements. Additionally, we have the local agency requirements. So that's going to be requirements by code, by ordinance, conditions of approval, building code, obviously, and any design manual, drainage manual, standard plans, that sort of thing. So yeah, so that's if we're within the phase 1 or phase 2 permit area. If we're not, if we're going to get a SWIP, right? If we've got a SWIP, then we're going to be under the construction general permit requirements. So this is an either or. Construction general permit requirements is the water balance calculator. That's an online form that's on the SMARTS website. They don't publish it outside the website, which is kind of obnoxious because it means you have to get on there and create an account and start messing around as if you've got an application just to see where you're going to land. If you've got more than 2 acres of disturbed soil, you additionally have to match pre-construction drainage density and time of concentration. So that's the same as in the old permit. Drainage density, that's if you've got creeks or streams, and time of concentration, that means basically you've got to have stormwater control measures on site that provide some sort of retention and detention, and then those will take care of your time of concentration, though you will have to specifically demonstrate that. Water balance calculator, 2 acres, 5-year O&M plan. So this is different than the long-term O&M plan for the regional requirements. So the 5-year O&M plan gets uploaded to SMARTS. So that's in lieu of this maintenance agreement. And then there's actually no requirement for a maintenance agreement or for annual inspections and certification. That being said, that's under the construction general permit. The local agency may, of course, require something different. Okay, so if we've got a SWIP, or if we don't have a SWIP and we're outside the MS4 permit area, only our local agency requirements apply. I wanted to just flag the local agency requirements. You know, if we're out in unincorporated county, if we're not in the county's MS4 area, obviously their design requirements apply. So, you know, that might be a 10-year to 10-year, 100-year to 100-year comparison. Whatever that may be, that's going to apply in the unincorporated county area. Those drainage and flood control requirements are still going to apply for projects under SWIP and under your MS4 permit. Sometimes it's easy to forget about those because you're focused on the SWIP permit requirements and under the post-construction requirements, but the local agency requirements are still going to apply. Okay, so just real quick, the SWIP permit, the post-construction permit, talks about post-construction requirements in a couple spots. I just wanted to flag a few items in here for you. Again, don't want to take up too much time. First of all dischargers other than linear underground and overhead project dischargers. So this is specific to the traditional projects, not the linear overhead projects. So second, dischargers subject to the post-construction requirements of an existing phase 1 or phase 2 municipal separate storm sewer system permit. So that's your MS4 permit, right? That's your incorporated cities and county unincorporated area MS4. Those have the local requirements. The SWIP is going to require the post-construction plans and calculations. Shall submit the approved plans and calculations of approval and blah, blah, blah. So they want you to upload your post-construction plans and calculations. That's your stormwater control plan. And the applicable phase 1 or phase 2 municipal separate storm sewer system permittees post-construction requirements. So they want you to upload your stormwater control plan and a copy of the municipal permit. Don't know why they want you to do that, but you got to submit both of those. And then this section here, it's a little confusing. All dischargers other than linear underground and overhead discharges or discharges subject to the phase 1 or phase 2 MS4 permit shall comply with the following post-construction runoff reduction requirements. So this provision is actually talking about these guys. So these sections come in from reference to this section. And I just mentioned that because this is for sites with disturbed areas exceeding 2 acres. And this guy, discharger shall use non-structural and or structural measures to replicate pre-construction water balance. That's the water balance calculator online. So these are specific to projects that are not covered under the phase 1 or phase 2 MS4 permit. So these are unincorporated county projects.
Real quick, Nathaniel, we have a comment that oftentimes the MS4 permit file is too big to post. Not really a question associated there, but just statement, yeah.
Yes, I don't, it says or web source. So maybe a page with a web link attached to it. I have not run into that problem yet, just because our permit's not too large to post.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We do have another question.
Okay.
With regard to the either or concept mentioned, a project can both be regulated by the PCRs and by the CGP and have a SWIP, correct?
Yes. So yeah, so if we're within the MS4 area, right? So we've got the MS4 requirements. Sorry, so this is our regional post-construction requirements. We can also have a SWIP. I didn't have a separate line for yes SWIP, no SWIP, because for post-construction requirement purposes, that doesn't come into it. If we're within an incorporated city or we're within the county's MS4 area, we just do our local, MS4 permit requirements. But yes, we can also have a SWIP. When you're signing up that project on the SMARTS website, you get to the post-construction tab. The first question they ask you is, are you subject to your local MS4 permit? That, phase 1 or phase 2 MS4 that hasn't adopted post-construction requirements. If you select yes, it just says upload your stormwater control plan and upload your municipal permit, and then you're done. If you say no, right? If you say no, then it's going to say, hey, fill out the water balance calculator.
So we don't have any further questions at this
Cool.
point.
Okay, so the last thing I was going to mention about post-construction is under the previous permit, if we had a SWIP, we weren't subject to the local agency's MS4 permit, right? We needed to fill out this water balance calculator. That's the online calculator. On some projects, because we've also got these conditions of approval from the local agency, we've also got the local agency design criteria. So we're going to, in a lot of cases, be doing essentially the same thing that we would have been doing under the local agency's MS4 permit, right? Retention of the 85th percentile, detention of the 2 and 10. So in lieu of the water balance calculator, we would actually just do a stormwater control plan, right? So act as if we were under the regular MS4 permit. Under the 2022 construction general permit, they actually changed the language. They stripped out the language that gave you the option to do that. They changed it to say that you need to use the water balance calculator that's on SMARTS, or you can use a watershed process-based continuous simulation model if approved by the regional board. So I have not had this conversation myself with the regional board. It may probably be totally fine, but the state intentionally stripped out the language, and their intention was to have you use the calculator. So again, I haven't had the conversation with our regional board. First project that it comes up for me, I'm gonna give them a call and ask them if we can just use our regional requirements rather than the water balance calculator. If any questions, please interrupt me, Erica. I took a minute and just made a Word document with all my web links, just in case people don't have them handy. So the construction general permit, the SMARTS website, there's a bunch of maps that the regional board or state water board has made available. So high risk receiving waters, TMDL, K factor, LS factor, along with the R factor calculator from the EPA. These are how you calculate your SWIP risk level. This is a web link to the current 303D list, basin plan, ASBS map. These guys you would use the 303D list and the basin plan. That would feed back into your risk level if you want to do a project specific calculation. And then the 303D basin plan, or not the basin plan, the 303D and the ASBS map, those can give you additional permit requirements if you have a SWIP.
And we do have a quick question asking about a copy of the resources page. So yes, we absolutely will send around a copy of the resources page with links.
Perfect. Yeah. And then just a real quick question, the high-risk receiving water map, again, this is put out by the State Water Resources Control Board. We've had this since the 2009 permit. I'm just wanting to flag, they're showing almost the entirety of our coastline as high risk. That is actually incorrect. They mapped it in a way that they show up as high risk. If you've got a project that discharges into an unnamed creek that discharges into the ocean, that's not going to be high risk. So we've made that comment before to them, but they've not wanted to update it yet. Also just wanting to flag, so the TMDLs are a new thing in the 2022 permit. If you're within a few selected TMDL watersheds, you have to do additional things if you've got a SWIP. So locally, we've only got actually 2 watersheds, the Pajaro River here in green, San Lorenzo River in red. Those are the only 2 in Region 3 that have TMDL requirements in the SWIP.
We do have a question. Do the post-construction requirements for traditional projects apply to projects that received a small construction erosivity waiver?
Right. So that's going back to our construction general permit flow chart. So if we go down here and we get ourselves an erosivity waiver, we are not under the SWIP permit. So yeah, everything associated with the SWIP permit, we're not under it, right? It's the same thing as if we're over here, right? We do not require coverage. The only difference is that we have to pay the fee and we have to sign up on smarts. And I think that the reason they have you sign up on smarts is so that you've got a start and an end date, and they send you a reminder and they say, hey, you're getting close to your end date. If you're still under construction and you're going to go outside that end date, you need to get yourself a SWIP. You need to sign up for a SWIP. But yeah, so if you've got a waiver, you're not subject to the construction general permit. That includes the post-construction requirement. That includes all the monitoring, reporting.
Another question, sort of tied into the last one. Even though you don't have to have a SWIP, don't the local PCRs still apply?
Yes. Yeah, so both of these flow charts are kind of focused on SWIP applicability and PCR applicability in the context of if you've got a SWIP or not. Yeah, so the PCRs have their own applicability criteria.
That's all the questions I have at this point.
Okay, well, I will send Erica all the slides. My intention was to, have, especially for kind of the planners that write out the project conditions, have an easy cheat sheet for, what conditions to apply to what projects based on the criteria in the permits. So yeah, I'm going to send those out to Erica. Are you going to put those on the website or send them out?
My plan is to send them to the folks who registered. So we have all those email addresses. They'll go straight to folks.
Great.
All right, folks. Well, if there are any other questions, please pop them into the Q&A. And while we wait for potentially people to type real fast, wanted to say thank you so much, Nathaniel, for making this possible. And yeah, I think we'll follow up with that email on the resources, the flow charts, everything shortly here. And in my little blurb, no one has typed in any further questions. So, oh, just kidding. So we have a registrant who is a little bit confused. If the MS4 regulated project is required to apply under the CGP and obtain a WDID, application will ask if the project is regulated by PCRs, and if so, then upload the associated SWCP, but SWIP document not then required, but CGP and WDID still applicable to the project.
Yes, lots of acronyms. Yes, so what, yeah, so let me see here. So so we're within a phase 1 or phase 2 MS4. It's gonna be yes. Does the local MS4 permit requirements, so they're gonna make you submit a stormwater control plan. They probably also want you to submit a maintenance agreement, long-term O&M plan. Those are at notice of termination. So that's just your post-construction. So the stormwater control plan is specifically the post-construction. They're also going to have you submit your SWIP for during construction. And so that's project requires coverage. So when I say CGP, right, that's the permit. The SWIP is your permit document, right? So you're going to need to submit the SWIP. That's going to deal with during construction activities, and stormwater control plan, which will deal with the post-construction or after construction activities. Now, the reason I kind of combine these two is there is often confusion about, because the terms are so very similar, there's often confusion about them. Also because the SWIP talks about post-construction requirements if you don't have a stormwater control plan. So you've got a stormwater control plan, you don't need to do the SWIP or the CGP post-construction requirements. But if you don't have a stormwater control plan, you get to do the CGP requirements, which is the water balance calculator. So you don't get off free anywhere. You got to do your post-construction requirements somewhere.
Thank you so much. So at this point, that was our last question. Since we're 12:12, we do have some more time. So if there's anything else you'd like to add, Nathaniel, please feel free.
No. Yeah, just thanks everyone for listening in.
Yeah, and if folks, if a question occurs to you at 2 a.m. tonight, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will forward them along to Nathaniel, and we'll try and get those answered for you. Well, great. Thank you so much again, Nathaniel. And thanks participants for joining us. Have a great week.
Thanks everybody.
All right. Take care.